Okay, hi everybody. I'm Geno. I'm codependent, and I guess I'm glad to be here. I've been doing this. Let me get scooted up here. I've been doing this a while, but I still get butterflies uh, in my stomach every time I get ready to do this stuff. Um, okay, let me do a quick, in case people here haven't seen me before and don't know anything about me or whatever. I'll give you a brief, mega brief, truncated history of my recovery and alcoholic home, okay, military home, all the good stuff that comes from that, and traveling around a lot. There was a lot of PTSD in my home due to the military thing. I went into the family business, as in I joined the Marine Corps at a young age, and I was involved in the recent unpleasantness in Southeast Asia, known as the Vietnam War, while I was in the Marine Corps, and that affected me deeply. I came into recovery initially in 1982 due to drug and alcohol problems, and then throughout all this stuff is a bunch of dumpster fire relationships here and there, a couple marriages that failed, all the stuff that we have in our lives. And I attended my first CoDA meeting in the summer of 1988 when I moved to Arizona. And I had about 6 years in recovery about that time. And I to be rigorously honest, I kind of fooled around with CoDA for a while, but I haven't really been involving myself and committing myself to the CoDA program. Probably, I'm guessing, probably about the last 18 years. I'm thinking is where I really 18 to 20 years, around in there, and where I've really been, and of course by doing that, reaping the rewards from that. So. And now I'm actually, to say what it's like today, I've been married 26 years now, 27. No, shaking her head. 27. I suppose I'm not good with math. I have a math block, okay? And so that's a miracle for me, because usually nothing with me lasts more than a few years before somebody runs. Okay, so that's enough. That's enough of the history stuff. Oh, by the way, yeah, I have PTSD that I've dealt with from this, and that's codependency was a big part of that too. I mean, I was codependent before I had PTSD, but I got PTSD that I finally admitted that I had probably about 12 years ago, something like that. I admitted I had it, but I didn't really do it. Didn't really talk about it or anything. And that's a big part of what's going on in my codependency and all that, and alcoholism and all that other stuff. Okay, so I'll get started here in a second. Everybody ready for the holidays? Looking at all those smiling faces out there. Probably not. I noticed I was talking about this the other day with in another meeting or with some of my friends, that I noticed that holidays are spoken of differently. Like at work, people would say, "Are you ready for the holidays?" and everything like that, or "How was your holidays?" But in meetings, people always say, "How was your holidays, man?" Did they call the cops? Were the EMTs there? Because we have these interesting families, and we get back exposed to all the triggers and all the things that gave us the reasons why we're here today. So anyway, I always found that interesting. Okay, I'm going to get started here with what I've put together. Hopefully, I want to say right off the bat, I'm going to start off with a quote from somebody. But most of this stuff I've got here is not original ideas. It's stuff I've stolen, and or ideas I've heard, things I've heard in meetings and things I've read and stuff that I thought applied to us as codependents. And I put it together, and that's what I did. So not a whole lot of original thought going on in here. So now I'll start with a quote from a guy named who was the originator of what was called gonzo journalism. And actually, but here's the quote. We are all alone. We are born alone, die alone. And in spite of true romance magazines, we shall someday look back on our lives and see that in spite of our company, we were alone the whole way. I do not say lonely, at least not all the time, but essentially and finally alone. This is what makes your self-respect so important. And I don't see how you can respect yourself if you must look into the hearts and minds of others for your happiness. So I've been privileged to share, I don't know, several workshops over the years, and I've usually been told to give it on a topic of my choice. And I notice that my most recent topic choices, whenever I do this, tend to be about the codependent's relationship with themselves. You know, some of the examples of what I did was how to be your own BFF and self-forgiveness, things like that. And initially, my recovery in CoDA involved around the awareness of the dysfunction in my relationship with others. Why did I get involved with this type of person or that type of person? And why did I put up with this or that type of behavior, et cetera, ad nauseum? I've come to believe that all relationship toxicity in my life was merely a reflection or a symptom of my unhealthy sense of self. And as I healed my connection to myself, all the other stuff started to take care of itself. And of course, what I always like to say, I teach best what I need to learn the most. You may hear some ideas that I've shared from previous workshops, and that's because I believe they're important and worth repeating. One of my biggest fears was that you would see me the same way as I see myself. Give me a compliment or some praise, and that ever insistent little voice in my head, one of my friends calls it his inner terrorist, would say, yeah, if they really knew me, they would never say that. So that was illustrative of what was going on in my opinion of self. We're all given a personal narrative of who we are, what our story is, what we deserve, and what we can expect. We tend to interpret the events and situations we experience to fit that story. So if you come from a dysfunctional background, you will attract and be attracted to people and events that facilitate interpretations tending to mirror the pain and suffering expected and deserved. Not because we like it or it's comfortable, it's familiar. It feels like home. Excuse me. It's what's referred to in psychological circles as a confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is a deeply embedded human trait and often a great weakness. Once I think I know something, I tend to see only the evidence that supports it. I think that codependency is that bias expressing itself throughout our lives and especially in our relationships. I was a cognitive prisoner trapped within the conceptual scheme of the paradigm I grew up in. Within that was my sense of self, which is the term I like to use. Our brains are often referred to as computers. When I was a little guy in that house in West Philadelphia, I watched and absorbed everything that went on. It was like programs going into computer memory to be used later. The programs I downloaded when I was little formed my default setting. In my first 7 years, that's what they say, you get it all. my brain downloaded every single thing that happened in my presence. Everything that was said, done, felt by me or others went straight into my subconscious. Before I was 7, actually, I think after too, to be honest, I didn't have a conscious brain function that says, oh no, I'm not downloading that. That is a way to deal with anger or hurt. That's crazy. I didn't have that. If that's what happened in my presence, it was downloaded into my subconscious and formed the default setting from which I would venture forward. That's why I did stuff that isn't very skilled when it comes to relationships with others and especially myself. In computer terms, some of the files I downloaded from what went on around me, from the way people I loved treated other people I loved, were corrupt. And from those corrupt files, I derived a corrupted sense of self. But I'm a big boy now, and I can do a cleanup of those files that are out of date. And that's basically what a lot of, I believe, my recovery has been about. Okay. Self-respect. It's an important aspect of one's identity because it reflects on how one views oneself, which in turn impacts every area of one's life, including relationships, work, and social life. Respecting and loving oneself is the first step towards gaining the love and respect of others. It gives one courage, which goes a long way in helping one express oneself in society or relationships. It also gives one clarity on oneself, what one wishes to do, and the tools one can use to achieve one's goals. Self-respect is a form of self-love and the belief that one is worthy of love, attention, and respect, and no one is less than anyone else. It helps others see and treat one with dignity and worth. Self-respect helps breed positive character. So, what is self-respect? Here I am talking about this stuff. What is it? Simply put, self-respect means having confidence in what you do and carrying yourself with dignity, honor, and grace. It is an inner power that you must take ample time to develop, given that it comes from experiencing life's setbacks and failures and learning how to rebuild. Self-esteem enables you to focus on what's important to you and not pleasing others. So why is self-respect important to you? Self-respect is the key to your happiness in the world. If you lack it, it becomes difficult to enjoy life and other experiences. It is a unique personal attribute that gives you confidence, compassion, understanding, and fulfillment. It's the key to happiness in the world and gives you courage, which goes a long way to help you express yourself. Gives you clarity on yourself, what you wish to do. And of course, well, as I mentioned before, the tools to achieve those goals. It reflects on how you view yourself, which in turn impacts all the areas of your life, including relationships, work, social life, etc. It's a form of self-love, as I mentioned before. So, self-respect versus self-esteem. How are they different? Are they different? Self-respect and self-esteem are often used interchangeably, but they are not the same thing. Self-respect is the ability to value yourself as a person, regardless of your flaws, mistakes, or achievements. Self-esteem is a feeling of confidence and worthiness that comes from your self-evaluation. Self-respect is more stable and less dependent on external factors than self-esteem. You can have high self-respect even if you have low self-esteem, and vice versa. The key difference is that self-respect is based on your intrinsic worth as a human being, while self-esteem is based on your perceived performance and competence, etc. So what's the difference between self-respect and self-love? Some people may think they are the same thing, but they're actually a bit distinct. Self-respect is the ability to value yourself as a person, recognize your worth and dignity, and to stand up for your rights and boundaries. Self-love is a feeling of affection and appreciation for yourself, to accept your flaws and imperfections, and to nurture your well-being and happiness. Both are important for a healthy and fulfilling life, but they're not actually interchangeable. You can have self-respect without self-love, or self-love without self-respect. But ideally, we should have all three of those things we mentioned. And I think that this program is the process to deliver those attributes towards self. Self-respect is connected with self-love and has to do with positive values you attribute to yourself: honesty, confidence, humility, having dignity and integrity, all those things I mentioned before. On the other hand, self-esteem refers to how you feel and think about yourself. You get self-esteem when you feel that you're meeting your standards and the expectations in any aspect of your life. So, what kind of strategies are there for practicing self-respect? I think all these things we have to practice them to get them, just like any skill. Strategies for practicing self-respect. So you want to work on it? Okay, when you practice self-respect, you'll become positive about your thoughts and emotions. You can start practicing self-respect right away with these strategies. First step to take if you want to respect yourself is to commit to the change. Choose to practice self-care, self-worth, and self-respect every day. Not just when you have to set a boundary that one time or this or that, or just with this person. It's all the time, every day. So you start out by identifying what makes you respect yourself. I often tell folks I talk to and everything, catch yourself doing something right. And look at that. Celebrate it. Do some self-analysis to know what things make you feel good about yourself. After that, prioritize them every day. For instance, if exercise makes you revere yourself, you can incorporate that into your daily life. Mind your feelings. What you feel is important as everyone else's. Given this, if something makes you uncomfortable, it's sensible to pay attention to that, respect that, and act accordingly. Consider your emotions every day when making various decisions. Minding your feelings is essential, especially since many of us tend to seek the approval of people around us. By valuing other people's opinions over your own, you show that you disrespect your own needs, desires, feelings, and beliefs. Essentially, you're saying to yourself that others are worthier than you. I'll say that again. You're saying to yourself that others are more worthier than you. Refrain from self-depreciation. That's another practice. Self-depreciation is the habit of reprimanding yourself by belittling, undervaluing, or disparaging yourself. It also entails being unrealistically modest about your abilities, achievements, etc. If you have been keen on building self-respect, you should refrain from making self-depreciating statements. After all, what you say about yourself over time could turn into what you believe, which can further hurt your self-confidence, self-esteem, etc. So make a point of avoiding any self-depreciation until you can understand the thin line between it and making fun of your abilities, beliefs, and so on. Challenge, this is important, challenge negative thoughts. Pay attention to how your negative thought patterns affect your actions. Identify your triggers for negative thoughts and rationalize. For instance, if a negative experience or lack of specific skills causes you to automatically call yourself unworthy, it can be helpful to recognize this thought process and challenge it. Even if I'm not great at singing, I am still worthy of love and respect. There's a challenger. Whenever you notice your inner critic starting to fire up, pause for a moment, challenge your thoughts as they whisper in your ear, and remind yourself that no matter what you do or don't do, you are nothing less than beautiful and worthy of self-respect. Start journaling. This is one I should do more of as well. Journaling is one of the best ways to practice self-care and keep your mental health in check. A journal gives you a private space to express yourself and deal with different emotional problems like stress, depression, anxiety, mood swings, etc. In this case, you can use your journal to note when you disrespect yourself and your thoughts during those moments. By keeping a record of these events, you can easily identify a pattern and the triggers. You find out what's going on with you. This is important too. Be honest to yourself. Being honest with yourself means accepting who you are as a person and who you are not. Build self-respect by knowing your interests and talents, likes and dislikes, and doing things that align with those attributes. For example, carrying on with job positions, friendships, and hobbies you don't like disrespects yourself. Instead, prioritize what gives you satisfaction to live a more fulfilled life. Working on accepting yourself. Start to pay attention to your thought patterns without getting caught up in them. Concentrate on self-acceptance and let go of your harsh internal critic or internal terrorist, whichever you want to call them. Commit to forgiving yourself and accepting your flaws, bad habits, and all the things you don't like about yourself. Forgive yourself for that. Allow yourself to be human. Identify your values. Start by understanding yourself. Imagine suddenly losing everything you own and being left with nothing but yourself. Ask yourself, what is important to me? What are my values? Why do I settle for less? What could remind me of my value? Keep the focus on internal qualities. Be mindful. You may get caught up in thinking that your worth as a person is due to external factors like your net worth, position, looks, possessions, or a number of followers on social media. Self-respect, however, is about internal qualities like character, morals, values, and action. Prioritize your emotional needs. Practice self-respect by doing things that make you feel content, happy, and comfortable. If anything, say a friendship or relationship that makes you feel sad, discontent, or mad at yourself, it's probably time to assess it. Every person has their own emotional needs, and it's your responsibility to take care of your own. So know what your needs are, and make sure they are fulfilled. Don't wait for someone else to just come along and meet them for you. Ain't gonna happen. Recognize that you deserve to be treated respectfully. In most cases, other people treat you exactly how you show them you want to be treated. When people don't treat you with respect, it's often a reflection of your own self-image. Remember, you deserve respect for the simple reason that you're human. We teach people how to treat us. Also, be aware of your own values and stand up for yourself when you feel disrespected. People will treat you better when you start demanding respect. If someone gets angry when you set a boundary, that tells you where their respect for you ends. Learn to say no. Everybody have trouble saying no? One of the best things you can do in building your self-worth is saying no when you're not okay with something. It can be hard to say no to people close to you, as you don't want to hurt them or look like a horrible person. However, saying no when something isn't all right with you means you're confident and respect yourself. Here are some polite ways to say no. Unfortunately, now is not a good time as I'm in the middle of something. I'm sorry, I'm not able to fit this one in at the moment. I can't commit myself at the moment as I have other priorities. No, thank you. Maybe next time. Thanks for thinking of me, but I'm not available right now. When you stop saying yes to things to please others, you'll be surprised how much freedom you'll have. You'll have time, mental energy, and peace of mind to concentrate on the things that actually matter to you. If you never say no, your yes becomes meaningless. Don't give in to self-doubt. Focus on loosening the grip of self-doubt. Nobody can make you feel unworthy of respect unless you permit them to do so. Develop a kinship with yourself and understand your strengths and values. Remind yourself that just as we all have a moral obligation to respect others, we also have a moral obligation to respect ourselves. So, and the takeaway, self-respect is about treating yourself the same way you would like other people to treat you. If you're constantly self-judging and devaluing yourself, others will also treat you the same. Building self-respect, especially when you're struggling with low self-esteem and confidence, will take some time. However, the tips should help you get a healthy level of self-respect. The American Psychological Association says having self-respect means having a healthy regard for your character, values, and dignity. It's a measure of your self-worth. Self-respect demands appreciation of your identity as an individual, which in turn impacts your thoughts, values, emotions, commitments, and behavior. So what are the benefits of having self-respect? Well, there's an internal sense of happiness. People who respect themselves understand that they must first look inward to discover their worth, esteem, and happiness. As a result, their life is more stable and fulfilling than those who compare themselves to others or who rely on external sources for validation. And a commitment to, you'll have a commitment to upholding your personal values. People with self-respect have a set of morals and values by which they evaluate their character and action. They are often willing to bet all they have on upholding these norms of behavior, as their very worth and sense of self depend on it. The ability to establish boundaries, self-respect requires people to have the fortitude to establish limits and fight for them when they are threatened. Respecting oneself enough to stand up for one's beliefs and boundaries also helps command the respect of others. Strong sense of dignity. Respecting oneself means having a strong sense of dignity towards one's person and position, honoring it at all times. Self-respect is an everyday discipline of loving who you are. It's the bedrock of developing self-acceptance and self-love. It's hard, but not impossible to lead a fulfilled, meaningful, and joyous life if you have respect for yourself. Okay, yeah, so if you have low self-respect, there's some pitfalls that come along with that. which we may know about that. The first one is relying on external validation. Individuals with low self-respect allow others to define them rather than defining themselves. They are more concerned with how others perceive them than what actually matters to them, and often lead fake lives as a result. There's a constant need for external validation and tend to be people pleasers. If you don't have self-respect, there's a strong possibility you're going to be living a life that lacks meaning. People who lack self-respect are unconcerned with their intrinsic values and the meaning of their lives. They're often impulsive, irresponsible, reliant on others, and self-destructive. Having a negative self-view. Those with limited self-respect are more vulnerable to having a negative view of themselves, which can cause them to engage in self-defeating behaviors, such as negative self-talk. And the ever popular, developing unhealthy relationships. A balanced, wholesome view of oneself and a healthy dose of self-respect are important ingredients in healthy relationships. Without it, people have trouble standing up for themselves and maintaining their boundaries. The lack of self-respect often gets reinforced over time, and people find themselves stuck in unhealthy situations, such as abusive or manipulative relationships. So, what kind of influences are there on self-respect? Well, there's some factors that influence one's sense of self-respect in childhood, of course, and adulthood. The childhood influences self-respect, like any other lasting quality, largely develops during childhood. Children learn that it's all right for them to love themselves when their parent or caregiver loves and appreciates them for who they are. Giving one's full love and attention to a child is the foundation to help them value themselves, the knowledge that they do not have to do anything special to deserve love and respect will make them much less likely to place artificial limits on such feelings for themselves. Parents who value themselves and are at peace with their sense of self are more likely to share these values with their children. It's not so much what the parents do, rather than who they already are, that will shape the child's sense of worth. The importance of self-respect is fostered at a young age, and it can last a lifetime. Adult influences. What childhood factors often play a greater role in influencing one's sense of self and self-respect? The influence of adulthood also matter. Factors like relationships, work, and life experiences can contribute to a person's sense of self-efficacy and self-confidence. Respecting and loving yourself is the first step toward gaining love and respect of others. Having respect for others is fundamental aspect of maintaining healthy relationships. Equally important, however, is practicing self-respect within relationships. The ability to recognize your value and assert yourself when treated poorly. Self-respect acts as a personal boundary, protecting you from behaviors that harm your dignity and self-esteem. If you constantly allow certain negative behaviors from others, it could indicate a deficiency in self-respect. Here are 4 such behaviors that you should never tolerate. First one is constant criticism. Constant criticism can be damaging to your self-esteem and mental health. It's natural for people to give and receive feedback, but when the criticism becomes a regular occurrence and undermines your achievements, it crosses a line into self-respect, and in my view, abuse. When someone belittles your accomplishments They're effectively denying the effort and dedication you put in to achieving them. This is a blatant disregard for your abilities and hard work. Moreover, if this person makes you feel inadequate or inferior, they're directly attacking your self-worth. Tolerating such behavior is a sign of lack of self-respect. By not addressing this issue, you're silently agreeing with the negative assessment and allowing them to continue treating you in this manner. It's crucial to stand up for yourself and assert that you deserve respect and recognition for your accomplishments. This not only communicates to others how you expect to be treated, but it also reinforces your own sense of self-worth and respect. Disrespect of boundaries. Sound familiar? Boundaries play a crucial role in maintaining balance and health in any relationship. They serve as guidelines for what behavior is acceptable and what isn't, setting clear expectations about each partner's needs and preferences. When someone consistently disregards these boundaries, they're essentially ignoring your feelings and personal autonomy, showing lack of respect towards you. This respect can manifest in various ways, such as not respecting your personal space, time, emotional needs, among others. Tolerating such behavior, however, can be a sign of lacking self-respect. By not addressing these boundary violations, you might be indirectly implying that your needs and feelings are less important than theirs. This tolerance not only allows a person to continue their disrespectful behavior, but also undermines your self-worth and dignity. Standing up for your boundaries is an act of self-respect. It sends a message to others and yourself that you value your needs and emotions and expect others to do the same. And here's something important. This is what I believe anyway. Take it or leave it if you want. Boundaries aren't telling people what to do. They're telling people who you are. They should be delivered in a manner of telling people. Setting a boundary is an intimate act. Telling people who you are. Frequent broken promises. Trust is a bedrock of any relationship, and keeping promises is a key aspect of building that trust. When someone consistently breaks their promises to you, it shows disrespect for your feelings and expectations. It can make you feel undervalued, as if your needs and desires are secondary to theirs. A promise is a commitment, and when it's broken, it can chip away at the trust you have for the person who made it. Frequent instances of these broken promises can lead to feelings of insecurity and uncertainty in your relationship with that person. If you find yourself continually accepting these broken promises without addressing the issue, guess what that is, right? That's an indicator of lack of self-respect. By not confronting that person about their behavior, allowing them to continue undermining your trust and taking you for granted. In other words, in my view, you're participating in your own abuse. Standing up for yourself in situations is crucial. It sends a clear message that you value your feelings and expect others to respect commitments to you. It not only helps maintain the trust and respect in your relationships, but also reinforces, again, your own sense of self or self-respect. Prioritizing their needs over yours. Balancing personal needs in relationships is crucial to maintaining harmony and mutual respect. While it's normal for people to prioritize their own needs, a relationship requires a certain degree of compromise and consideration for the other person's needs as well. If you find out that someone consistently prioritizes their needs without considering yours, it demonstrates the lack of respect. They are effectively dismissing your feelings and needs, which can lead to feelings of resentments, emotional exhaustion on your part. This behavior can make you feel undervalued and overlooked, creating an imbalance in the relationship. Tolerating such behavior could indicate a lack of self-respect. By not addressing the issue, you're allowing the person to continue disregarding your needs and feelings, which reinforces the idea that their needs are more important than yours. Standing up for your own needs is a vital act of self-respect. It communicates to others that your feelings are important and should be considered. It not only helps restore balance and respect in a relationship, but it also strengthens that ever important sense of self. Again, we teach people how to treat us. Okay. Here's some I got some final thoughts that I'm going to give, and it's almost time for the break. Oh, hi. We ready to rock and roll, or? Thank you very much. Shall I start? I'm going to start. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm back. Everybody back? Here we go. These are my final thoughts about this subject. And maintaining self-respect, I believe, is key to fostering healthy relationships. We come in here because we're looking about the relationships we have and whatever. But I believe if I had had a lot more self-respect, I would have had more respect for others. And I believe I wouldn't have had all the issues in relationships I was blaming on external events. I think, as always, this recovery is an inside job. If you notice that you're enduring a lot of those disrespectful behaviors I mentioned before, it's critical to reevaluate the circumstances and considering seeking guidance to reclaim your self-respect. Always remember, self-respect is the initial step towards acknowledging that you, like everyone else, are deserving of love, consideration, opportunities, and all those things that we want, satisfaction. Another thing I'm going to add is something I've learned in recovery is I no longer look, I used to always think it was success is what I was looking for, that I would find happiness. I don't look, well, I'm retired now, right? Big deal. But I always thought it had something to do with money and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is, it's not success, it's satisfaction. I found that success is always defined by other people. The only one that can define satisfaction for me is, guess who? Me. It's the inside job. The longer I'm in recovery, the more I value peace, which means not putting up with things or people that disrupt it. We always talk about the red flags, right? Red flags aren't always about the other person. When I start lying to myself about who they are, so I don't have to face up to going through the process of breaking up or losing them, that's a big flag to pay attention to. Be wary of people who are always the victims in their stories, in all their stories. Negativity is contagious. Unhappiness is contagious. Fear is contagious. But so also is happiness. So is optimism. So is love. Surround yourself with people who bring out the best in you and strive to be the reflection of what you want to receive. And I've learned that in these rooms of Codependence Anonymous. Another thing I think I want to talk about is real quick. I think there's pressure on people to turn every negative into a positive. But we should be allowed to say, this is something I learned the hard way. I went through something really strange and awful, and it altered me forever. That should be okay. An unhealed person can find offense in pretty much anything someone does. A healed person understands that the actions of others have nothing to do with them. Each day, we get to decide which one we're going to be. The goal is not to be happy every day, but to be at peace with my emotions. I know that every day won't be a good day, but I no longer want my bad days to ruin me in case I have another good day after them. Standing up for myself doesn't make me argumentative. Sharing my feelings doesn't make me oversensitive. And saying no doesn't make me uncaring or selfish. If someone won't respect my feelings, needs, and boundaries, the problem ain't me, it's not Geno, it's them. This was important to me. The ability to identify my own toxicity is not only a sign of strength, but it's also an indication of maturity. I know you're thinking the words Geno and maturity in the same word seem to be mutually exclusive, but not always. When you're desperate for love, you'll tolerate disrespect and bare minimum efforts. When you respect yourself and know your worth, you won't settle for anything just so you have something. Your self-love has to be louder than your desire to be loved. And I don't believe you can truly love in an unconditional way until you have enough self-love. And here's one from a guy from Lao Tzu. I think he's an ancient Chinese philosopher. When you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everybody will respect you. If I'm telling you what I want from day one, it's not me pressuring you into a relationship. It's me making sure we're on the same page. I've learned that the absence of communication leads me into a situation, and my heart and I have had enough of those. If you're more worried about pleasing others than about caring for yourself, it might mean that there's trauma in your body telling you that you are only safe when other people are pleased with you. Perhaps it's time to heal that trauma so you can learn to let people down while you honor and respect your own needs. You got to be okay with people being mad at me. I had to get okay with people being angry with me when I did self-care, when I took self-care. No one can do a thing about feelings. They exist, and there's no way to censor them. We can reproach ourselves for some action, for a remark, but not for a feeling. Quite simply because we don't have any control over it. There's no such thing as a positive emotion or a negative emotion. All of your emotions are necessary. They just are. To deny your own impulsive feelings is to deny the very thing that makes us human. This is the denial of self. I used to think that communication was the key until I realized the comprehension is. You can communicate all you want with someone, but if they don't understand you, it's silent chaos. And it's my job to make sure I'm understood. Not always their job to just, whatever I do, they have to understand me. I also own a piece of that dynamic. Conversely, a little communication goes a long way if you're understood. If you're busy, say it. If you're upset, express it. If you're running late, let people know. If you don't want to do something, be straightforward. If you're unsure, ask. It's so simple, but so important. When that voice in your head is saying you're not doing enough, it's not yours. It's inherited. It's been passed down from society, parental figures, whoever, who implicitly taught us that our worth is based upon our output and achievement. Getting things done is great, and that's good. But it doesn't have anything to do with your worth as a human being or as a person, or whether you're lovable. Trauma. Trauma isn't always the bad things that happen, but sometimes it's also the good things that didn't happen. So I went a lot of time feeling that I didn't have that much trauma in my background. But a lot of times I look back and some of my trauma was stuff, the good stuff that didn't happen, that reassured me that I was a person of worth. So I think that's important. Now, my words and values will either attract a strong mind or offend a weak one. That's the way I look at it. Okay. If I'm true to myself and my values, I let God sort out who's supposed to be with me. No amount of anxiety makes any difference to anything that's going to happen. Anxiety is just wasted energy. If I openly communicate the ways that your actions and words have hurt me, and you choose to ignore my truth because it challenges you, then I won't feel bad for removing you. I don't have time for immaturity, manipulation, projection, or passive aggressive behavior. Believe that. And if we believe that about ourselves, that we don't deserve that, it makes a big difference. I spend most of my life inside my head. So my job in recovery is to make it a nice place to be. So, what's it like in your head? Is it a happy place? Trying to control other people's perception of you is not only a form of self-abandonment, it's actually a form of manipulation, mainly because you're not showing them your true self. Something to think about. When you feel nervous about stepping outside of your comfort zone, remind yourself, it feels scary. This is what I had to do. It felt scary because it's unfamiliar, not because I'm incapable. When you're not used to being confident, confidence will feel like arrogance. When you're used to being passive, assertiveness will feel like aggression. When you're not used to getting your needs met, prioritizing yourself will feel selfish. Remember that your comfort zone is not a good benchmark on how you're doing. I've always had to leave my comfort zone to do any new recovery type behaviors. It's always been, well, okay, here we go. It's always taken an amount of courage for me to pull it off. And emotional courage is the hardest one for me to find. The physical stuff, I learned how to do that. But emotional courage has been very hard for me because I think I've been emotionally stunted a lot of my life. I've come a great distance to be who I am. And I've done some things that I'm not proud of and made decisions I sometimes wish I could change. But when I look back, I don't have regrets. I'm better because of the things that broke me. I'm better because that I finally chose not to let the terrible things make me a hard person. We all have a choice as to how our pain and heartache will shape us. And I hope you choose to allow it to make you into someone you come to love. Since I've been in recovery, I've met some really strange and wonderful people, one of whom is me. And I hope you all get to do the same. Okay. And finally, one day I realized that happiness was never about my job or degree or lack of a degree, money, things, or being in relationship. Happiness was never about following in the footsteps of all those who came before me. It was never about being like the others. One day I saw that happiness was always about the discovery, the hope, the listening to my heart and following it wherever it chose to go. Happiness was always about being kinder to myself. It was always about embracing the person I was becoming. Hopefully, everybody will one day get to understand that, I think. And happiness is always about learning how to live with yourself. That happiness was never in the hands of other people. It was always about you. It's always about us. God bless you. Thank you.